Hello everyone, my name is Brooklyn Smith, and today I'll be going over 4 of the 6 Gert Hofstede's cultural dimensions: power distance, individualism versus collectivism, uncertainty avoidance, and indulgence. Then I will go over Edward Hall's high/low context theory and share a personal experience. Lastly, I will discuss an article from Neil Hartman's MIT course. The first dimension is power distance. This is where power being distributed unequally is accepted and expected. In the US culture, we have a more low power distance than other areas like China, Philippines, and Africa that put more emphasis on hierarchy and have a larger power distance. I often see this in schools, specifically high schools, where oftentimes students and teachers make a friendship-like bond where students will go into teachers' classrooms and talk and just hang out like they're their buddy rather than their teacher. Next is individualism, and this is where individuals making their own decisions and choices are very much expected and normalized, versus collectivism, which is where people are more co-dependent, more interdependent as members of a larger group, where one social place is determined socially, and that can be found in places like South Korea or India. This is where the group needs and harmony is found to be more important than one's personal desire. Personally, I see individualism in teenagers, and honestly everywhere, but more specifically teenagers and young adults, where they're moved more away from their parents and their family as they make decisions such as driving, getting jobs, and just deciding what they want to do with their own lives. And then next would be uncertainty avoidance. I think this is very mixed in the United States culture, as people aren't very much scared of risk and trying new things. However, they do have routines that they enjoy and rituals that they're used to. And so when their daily lives or what's normal for them is interrupted by something abnormal or something they're just not expecting, there seems to be people are more off-put, more grumpy. They have more of this fear of what's going on, and I especially see this in politics and news, where people want to know what's happening and they strongly desire to know the truth. Lastly is indulgence. The US culture is definitely surrounded by indulgence everywhere, and is definitely very much a core part of the culture, as indulgence is more of the happiness in daily life and the things that we enjoy, and just like the good things that we find and choose and the freedom that we have. And I can see this as people are less restrained or controlled in the culture of the United States, and we have more of a freedom to choose and do as we wish, and we're given more space to do things that make us feel happy and fulfilled, such as going hang out with friends, working a job or a career that we specifically like, skipping school, etc. Next, high/low context by Edward Hall. His theory is in high context cultures, they're very indirect communicators. They rely a lot more on facial cues, tone, body language, and hand gestures to get their meaning conveyed, and their sentences won't be as straightforward. You have to find the hidden meaning. It's not just in the sentence. While low context is more very blunt, straightforward, and whatever's being said is what they're meaning. You don't have to overthink it. You can find low context places to be Canada, Germany, Switzerland, the United States. High context is more like places of China, Africa, Italy, or France. For me personally, growing up, my best friend's mother was part Polynesian, and she was from Hawaii. She was a very high context communicator. Oftentimes when we would ask her something like having a sleepover or a play date or having longer time to do something, while my mom would be more straightforward and saying no or another time and be more explicit in her explanation, I found that my friend's mom often more used roundabout ways to say no rather than directly, such as possibly or maybe, but often I had to rely on her tone and facial expressions and sometimes her body language to understand that she was just trying to be polite, but what she really meant was oftentimes no. And that taught me to be more aware of how people communicate through their body and their tone and their facial expressions to show what they're really meaning, even in people who are more explicit, because sometimes those who are even explicit in their sentences and what they're saying, sometimes there's still a underlying meaning to it, at least sometimes in how I speak. The MIT course that I chose was Advanced Communication for Leaders, and again, this is by Neil Hartman. The article that I chose to cover is Managing Multicultural Teams. I personally found this article to be of value, as it just talked about it explained the different ways that these multicultural teams found problems in their communication. The ways that small things like high context communicators like Japanese workers being more indirect with what they were saying, and their American coworkers misunderstanding their meaning of no for yes, we're good, let's keep moving forward, and it causing misunderstandings, for example. And so they mainly just went over all the different ways that miscommunication had shown up, and the different ways the cultures and the different ways that these different groups handled it. And they showed examples of teams that failed and teams that succeeded. And they explained the reasons as to why both happened for those different teams. And along with these, they gave more examples of solutions and ideas that they could use to help those miscommunications lessen, and to help the team members come to understand each other better, and to build a bridge of communication and work around their differences and connect more with each other, such as further understanding how their tone or facial expressions may be conveying something else, or learning what in that different culture meant versus what their culture meant. And so they're just some different ways that they express that you could learn more and give more understanding to other cultures as you're trying to work with them, and how that can help them succeed and learn in the future to become better communicators with each other, and to solve future problems without dragging someone into the middle to help figure it out. So thank you so much for listening. That was all. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation. In the presentation, we covered the 4 dimensions: power distance, individualism versus collectivism, uncertainty, avoidance, and indulgence. We talked about Edward Hall's high/low context theory, and I talked about the article Managing Multicultural Teams from the Advanced Communication for Leaders MIT course. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a good rest of your evening or day.